Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April Consulting webinar from CDI. My name is Michael Mathis. I'm the Solutions Director at CDI, and today we will harness the power of bots and make them work for you. If you have questions during the webinar at any time, please post any questions into the questions box. We do have staff monitoring questions and answering them during the webinar, and we will have time at the end of today's webinar for any questions that are left. During today's webinar, please remember to take notes and screenshots. I find it useful to note how far into the webinar we are so you can find the place later in our recording. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We love all of your questions, and we'll have time at the end to answer any questions. Please complete the survey afterwards. We would love to hear from you on what you enjoyed about the webinar today, what we can do differently, and any future topics that you may have in mind that you would like to see. And also remember that today's webinar will be recorded and will be available on the CDI YouTube channel within a couple days of the recording. Harness the power of bots and make them work for you. The intended audience for today's webinar is Laserfiche administrators and Laserfiche power users. And our webinar today is applicable to Laserfiche cloud environments. If you're neither an administrator nor a power user, or if you are a self-hosted user, please stay on the webinar as there will be plenty of valuable information for everyone. During our webinar today, we will discuss what are bots and what is robotic process automation. We will learn how to design bots using the Laserfiche bot recorder. And finally, we'll go through a live demo of everything we learned today. So what is robotic process automation? Robotic process automation technology is used to automate routine, repetitive tasks by emulating the interactions of an end user. So it's a robot, right? Not really. The robot in RPA refers to the software bot installed on a computer and not a physical robot, as fun as that would be. So what are bots? Laserfiche bots, also known as Laserfiche workflow bots, let you easily automate those routine tasks between multiple systems. By automating these time-consuming, uninteresting tasks, users have more time to focus on more important matters. These bots will work directly across user application interfaces, mimicking the actions a person would perform, including signing in and signing out of applications, copying and pasting data, and filling out forms. You can kind of think of bots as a macro, only a modern day macro. So our tasks for our bots or our macros should be consistent and routine. Everything should be done the same way each and every time. And our tasks should be discrete and limited. So we should know exactly what that task needs done in order to complete it, and it should be limited in scope to what an automated process can do. So bots aren't going to be able to make decisions on the fly, but we can make decisions based on data that's provided in that bot or pulled from an application. So when should we use bots? Bots are excellent for manual data entry. So if we have a CSV report run from an external system, we can use that data to enter that into other systems. We can integrate processes together. So we can gather data from a Laserfiche form, route that form for approval. After everything is approved, we can enter that data into our third-party system using the bot. A Laserfiche workflow could gather information and process that data At the end of that workflow process or during that workflow process, a bot could be invoked to either enter data into a third-party system, retrieve data from a third-party system. A use case would be, for example, we have a new client paperwork that is added to the repository. So we gathered information using Laserfiche forms. We completed that new hire paperwork or new client paperwork packet. It's saved to the repository. A workflow will then run to create the folder structure, add metadata, and more. The workflow would then invoke a bot to automatically update our CRM system or our accounting system with that new client's information. Designing bots is broken down into a few easy steps here. So first we'll prepare to record our bot. So determine what information we need, where it's located, what we're going to do. We will record our bot by performing the actions within our software systems. We'll edit our bot. We can add in delays, conditions. We can run our bot manually, or we can run it through scheduled tasks or workflow processes. And finally, we can monitor our bot processes to ensure everything is running smoothly. To get started, we are going to prepare to design our bot. So we will identify all of the actions that need to be performed. So as you're running through that manual process for hopefully your last time, make a list of every action that you're performing. What needs to be done? Where is this data? Do we need to go into multiple screens? Before beginning to record, open the needed applications and ensure that your credentials are available if sign-in is required. After we have prepared to record our bot, we can then add in the add recording task from the bot designer toolbox, which will then give us the options to open the bot recorder or import a bot recording. So if you have a recording saved on your local computer, you can import that into one or more bot designs. And using the Laserfiche bot recorder, after we click open the bot recorder, we have the option to record or to begin our recording. Once we begin, we can pause that recording. If we have to, for example, find our password because we forgot we needed that password, or we get that random IM that we need to address, our phone rings. As we're recording, we can select if we want to record a single element, or if we want to pull rows of information from a table element in our application. And as we're recording, the Laserfiche bot recorder will display the actions that we've performed, as well as any data that we've gathered during our process. As a note, the bot recorder does need to be installed on your local machine. If you do not have the bot recorder installed yet, you will receive a pop-up with a link to download and install the recorder. So after we record our bot, we then need to organize. So as we're recording, things aren't going to be exactly how we need them in order to run a process. They are going to be just one action after the next. So it's a very good idea to organize your bot design using groups and name those groups. We can use tokens and flow controls. So for example, we can loop over information. We can run an if condition. So if this value equals X, we're going to do Y. We can exit loops early if we need to. We can add in a delay or a wait condition, which is always helpful. As we are designing our bot, we will continue to test throughout the process in order to make sure everything is working. And finally, we're going to clean up. So we will make sure that our bot is signing out of our applications and closing them. We can add in any additional information we need to into our labels and make everything clean and pretty for other users that may be using this in the future. After we have our design of our bot completed and we publish our bot, we can then manually start the bot from the manage page of the Laserfiche bot area. We can also use remote agents in order to run our bots automatically. Configuring of remote agents is a little bit out of the scope for today's webinar, but if you do need assistance, please let us know and we are happy to help. When we have remote agents installed and configured, we can schedule a starting event. So we can set this bot to run on a certain date and time and repeat every day, month, quarter, whatever our schedule may be. We can also use Laserfiche workflow to start a bot using the invoke bot activity. Here we would select our bot that we want to use. We can provide inputs and output tokens. So information that we've gathered from workflow and want to pass into that bot, we can use an input token for. If our bot is gathering data and needs to return that data to the workflow, we can use our output tokens. After our bot is up and running, we will want to be able to monitor our bot. So in the monitor section, we can view instance history for our bots. We can see each instance that ran, when it was queued, what the status is. We can search for instances of those bots, and we can also view details on those instances so we can see what information was gathered, what actions were performed, what errors were encountered, if any. And at this point, we will jump into our live demonstration. So here I'm already signed into my Laserfiche Cloud account. And under the application menu, we can go to Process Automation, to our Process Automation page. And on the bottom left, we have our option for bots. We come to our Manage page first, where we can see all of the bots that we have created. And we can view information about those bots. So how many instances were queued, started, completed, or terminated. We can configure runtime settings on a bot that has been published. So we can select our priority, low, normal, or high. And we can define capabilities if needed. So if this bot needs access to software that's only installed on one machine, we can add that as a required capability. Set that capability on our bot agent, and the bot will only run on those agents with the specified capability. Lastly, we can also configure notifications. So if we want notifications when a bot is started or a bot is completed, we can turn those on or off. A nice feature is to turn on bot terminated. That way we will be notified when an error occurs or that bot does not run correctly. Under our notification settings, we can configure additional details, additional settings. So when our bot's terminated, we want this in our daily email digest. Alternatively, we could send it immediately or both. To get started designing a bot, we are going to click the New button. We will provide a name for our bot. And optionally, we can provide a description. When we click Create, that will create our bot and bring us into our design view. To get started, we are going to prepare by opening up the applications that we are going to be using. So we are going to be using Salesforce and Laserfiche Forms in our webinar today. So I have Chrome open, and I am going to add my recording. We can open the bot recorder. Again, if you don't have the bot recorder installed already, you will be displayed with a pop-up that allows you to download and install the bot recorder from a link on your screen. I'm going to check the always allow app.laserfiche.com to always open the bot recorder and select open. This will then minimize your web browser window that you are in and open up the Laserfiche bot recorder. I'm going to move that off to the side and move Chrome over. When I click on Start Recording, we get a little pop-up with some information. The most important tip is to wait for a red rectangle to appear. If you don't wait for that red rectangle to appear and you click on your link or your button, it will click the wrong item because the red rectangle is either somewhere else or we can't find that information. We can use Control-C to copy a highlighted element, or we can use Control-V to paste information into our highlighted element. And I'm going to check Don't Show Again so that we don't see this every time during our webinar. And here, since we are using Chrome, we will, typically it's going to make me reopen Chrome. So let me pause. Sometimes you will get a message saying, using Laserfiche Chrome, you will need to open Chrome. I don't remember the exact message. It will then give you a link to click to reopen Chrome in the UI automation mode. So to get started, we are going to first go to Salesforce. So I will open my Salesforce page. We'll delete our information and record. So here I want to, here we go. This is the message. So Chrome is not configured to work with the bot recorder. To continue recording, click below to launch a new instance of Chrome. So we'll launch our new instance of Chrome, and it reopens with Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. I'm going to close out of my other Chrome window so I don't get confused. And now I'm going to go to my Salesforce URL and start recording. So first we will need to enter our username. Whoops. We will save this information. Here under Actions, we see that we have Write CDI Sales Demo at citiesdigital.com. So as we are recording our actions, the Laserfiche bot recorder will list them all in the actions. Next, we will enter our password. And I am not going to enter my real password here. So I'm going to enter in, this is secret. I'll click save, and I can then pause my recording. I'm going to remove the information that Laserfiche put in and paste my actual password. And then I can start recording again. So that copy and paste of my real password was not recorded because I was able to pause that recording. I'm going to continue recording. Make sure you continue because it's not fun when you're halfway through everything and then realize you didn't record. We'll click our login button. And this brought us to our accounts with expiring contracts view in Salesforce. I now, instead of working with a single element, so a single text box for our username, text box for our password, button for login, I want to record our table element and find our table of information that we're working with. So here we have our read accounts with expiring contracts activity. And this is going to give us a label and value for our table information. We can click to edit our table to make sure that we found the right information. Looks like it found everything. I'm going to change a couple fields here. So I want this to say account name, just to make it a little easier to work with. And the other field we'll be working with is our last modified. We will call this expiration. It's also useful to notice that Laserfiche bots are grabbing extra information here rather than just what we see. So we can preview the information that's being returned, and we may need to edit some of this information using our token editor later in our recording or later in our process. Now that I am done recording, signing into Salesforce and reading my accounts with expiring contracts, I'm going to finish my recording. And this is going to ask if I want to save. If we click cancel, everything we've done will be gone. So we are going to click OK. And that's going to then bring that recording and all of those actions into our designer for us. It's going to add them into a group. So here we can rename our group. We have our right value to our username field, writing our value to our password, logging in, or clicking the login, and then we're going to read. One thing we are missing is launch application. So we are starting without Google Chrome being open. So we want to launch that application. And then we're going to find the application by our window title or application name, window title, and window URL. So we can now save our changes, and using our test bot button, we are going to make sure this works. So that opens up on my other screen. So we have entering our information. I forgot to change that password. So I put in my not real password, and I forgot to actually put in my real password in our secured data here. So I'm going to paste that in and update. Do not want to add that to LastPass, so now we will test. We test again, that opens Salesforce, signs us in, and it's reading our table. You can see now our bot has succeeded. Now that we have the information from Salesforce, we will collapse our group to make it easier to see what we are doing. And we can then move on to our next step where we are going to add in another recording. We will open our bot recorder. When our bot recorder opens again, it's going to ask if we want to run the bot up to this point before adding a recording. Here I'm going to say no because we don't need to do any actions to help us set everything up. We are going to move on to our next step where we are going to sign into Laserfiche Cloud. So we'll open a new tab, sign in, bring up our Laserfiche Cloud Home tab, and I'm going to start recording again. We will enter our account ID. Oops, I accidentally clicked and it recorded that. I don't want that in there, so I can delete the selected action, and that will remove that click for me. Let's try this one more time where you're going to enter the value 709. So we're entering our account ID, clicking next. We will enter our username. We will enter our password. Sometimes the red box gets a little finicky and you have to move your mouse around in and out of those areas that it wants to select and not the one that you wanted to select. I'm going to enter not my password. And again, we will pause recording so that I can enter my real password. And start recording again. And we will sign in. We are now signed into Laserfiche so we can finish our recording. And yes, we want to save. So here we will rename this one to sign into Laserfiche Cloud, and I'll remember to update my password. And again, we need to launch our application before signing into Cloud. Here, this is telling us that we're going to find our Salesforce page. We will click on our application link and change this to Google Chrome 2, which is going to be sign into Laserfiche. So we've now logged into Salesforce. We've signed into Laserfiche. Our next step is going to be adding in another recording. And this time we are going to automate filling our form. So I'm going to open my new browser tab, put in the URL we're working with to our form that we're going to have our bot fill. And I forgot to open my bot recorder. And again, we will start our recording. Here I'm going to fill my account name with an existing bot token. We're going to select accounts with expiring tokens and our account name. We'll save that one. Whoops, again, I clicked and I don't want that click in there. Our account ID is going to fill with our existing token, account name. And in our token editor, we can enter in a regular expression and we can see our result value real time. So here I just want the numbers after our space hyphen space. So I will do \s, \hyphen, \s. And I want to start collecting all of our digits, and that will be 1 or more, and our group. There it puts in our result value, which is our account ID. So we'll click Save there. And finally, under our contract expiration, we are going to use our existing bots token, accounts with expiring tokens, and our expiration value. Here we have our date, comma, time, as well as additional text we don't want. So here we really just want everything. So dot star, we want everything before the comma. Select save. And finally, we can submit our form. We will finish our recording. And yes, we want to save. So we have our group. We will call this submit form per row. For each row in our accounts with expiring contracts, we are going to write the value row's account name into our fields. If we select a token here, this is going to allow us to update, so we can add additional information, remove information, or we can click on our existing token and edit our label, regular expression, or other information we need to edit. Our click submit came up outside of our for each row. So I'm going to move that inside of our for each group. And it's just going to be drag and drop to reorder. We can also then add in our launch application. So for each row, we want to open our Laserfiche form. At the end, we are going to wait. It's always going to take just a couple of seconds for that form to submit all the way through, and we want to make sure that it does. So we will wait for 5 seconds, and then we want to continue running. We don't want our bot to end, we want to continue running. Here we're going to change our message to waiting for form submission. And finally, we are going to use the keyboard shortcut activity to close our Google Chrome window. So to close just that specific tab, we are going to pretend we are pressing Control and F4 on our keyboard. And that should take care of submitting for each row. We can then run a test again. I'm going to close my existing window. We will test our bot. And since we have this for each row, we are being asked how many iterations do we want this to run for? So we can repeat for every row in our table or only our first row. Since we're testing, I only want it to run on the first row and not all of them. So here we'll test again. We are signing into Salesforce. Our bot then opens a new tab to sign into Laserfiche. I am not touching anything, I promise. Oops, it looks like it missed clicking next, so we will try that ourselves here and just let it keep running to see if our form works. And then we will need to troubleshoot that. Here our form is open, it filled our information, and it submitted our form. It's waiting for 5 seconds, and it closed our tab. So everything worked except for signing into Laserfiche. It looks like it did not record one action here, my actual clicking of next. So I'm going to add in a new recording, open the recorder. I need to sign out here. And I'm just going to record typing in. I'll type in my information. I'm just going to record clicking my next button because that's the activity I'm missing. I can then finish my recording. And here we will move, we will use our drag and drop to move that to where we want it. And we can then delete this group. We can then test our bot one more time, make sure everything is working. Wish this would open on the correct monitor. We have our click. It entered our credentials, clicked again. It opened our form. It filled our information, submitted our form. And closed our window. That looks fantastic. So at this point, we have everything working so far, and we will now clean up. One thing I want to do is add a wait condition here. I noticed the form was being opened before the sign-in completed into Laserfiche Cloud. So here we will wait 3 seconds and continue. And finally, we will add in one last recording to sign out of Laserfiche Cloud and to sign out of Salesforce. So we're going to open our bot recorder again. And we will move this over so we can see everything. We will start recording. Here I want to click on my username and click sign out. I'm going to pause and switch over to Salesforce. Resume my recording. I will click on my profile icon and log out. And we can then finish our recording. Here I am going to rename this to group to clean up. We can even add in additional groups here for Laserfiche. We'll move these activities into our group. And let's add in another group for Salesforce. And the last thing we will want to do is a keyboard shortcut, again, to close our browser tab. Oops. Keyboard shortcut. It's not liking me here. There we go. So Control F4. And again, we want to make sure we're pressing the shortcut on the correct application. So we will change this to Google Chrome 2. Before we close our tab, we will also add in a wait and wait for another 5 seconds to make sure that we are fully signed out. Before closing our tab, And we will do the same for Salesforce. Wait for another 5 seconds and continue. And we then need to run our keyboard shortcut to close our tab. So here we'll run this on Google Chrome. We will select Control and F4. And that should take care of all of our actions for our bot. So again, I will close my Chrome window there, and we will run one more test. We want to test only on the first value. Here our bot is running. We have it signing into Salesforce. So reading our accounts table. We are signing into Laserfiche. Again, I am only narrating what the bot is doing. I am not touching anything. It's opening forms and writing our information. Should submit. It's waiting for the submission, closing our tab. Is it going to sign out? It clicked. It clicked. They're signed out. You're waiting for user action. Let's make sure that we sign out of Salesforce. We are signed out. We'll make sure our window closes. Success. Everything is running. So we now have a bot that we can test. We can't run it yet, but we can only test it. First, we have to publish our bot. And after our bot is published, we can then either create a starting event for our bot. So we could create a condition or a schedule. If we have a condition, we can run this bot when an action happens within our Laserfiche repository. Or we can schedule this to run on a repeating schedule or a never repeating schedule. Under actions, we will select invoke a bot and select the bot that we configured. And we can then create our rule. So our bot is now going to run on a schedule. However, we haven't enabled the schedule because I don't want it to run on a schedule. If we go to our designer, I'm sorry, not our designer, our manage page, we can find our bots, and so far we have 0 instances that have run. I can manually run this bot on my remote agent. So if I click my run button, that is going to have my Laserfiche bot that is running in the background take over my computer to perform all of our actions. So we'll run through our sign-in. And this is going to run through each of our records. We go into, I'm going to move this off to the side and see if I can view information here while that's still running. Oh, I can. It's not the greatest, but here we can see that we do have one instance that's queued and it is still running. We can go to monitor, and here we have our running instance. We can view information for the instance. We have no input or output parameters. Since our instance is still running, we don't have a history here. I don't see a way to stop our bot from running once it's started, so I'm going to let this keep running a little longer. We're at item 5 of 6 here. We have a question: what happens when 2FA is enabled for the account we are using? I am going to expand on that question and include the reCAPTCHA or I am not a robot checkbox. Unfortunately, we are not able to automate those tasks because that does require human interaction to enter that MFA code or to prove you're not a robot, because a bot is a robot. Okay, our process is done here. So if we take another look at our instance detail, we can see each of the steps that the bot had performed and how long it took to run each of these steps. We can see everything completed successfully. Lastly, we will take a look at Laserfiche workflow, where we can use the invoke bot activity to invoke our bot that we just created. So we'll add our invoke bot activity to our workflow canvas. Select the bot we want to run. And from workflow, we have the option to change the priority that we're going to run this bot under. So we can use the bot settings, or if this is something that needs to be prioritized over everything else, we can select high, otherwise normal or low. Once we have our workflow created, we can save and publish our workflow. And we can then run our workflow. And that is then going to consume my computer once again to automate all of our tasks. And I will move this off to the side. If we go back to our monitor, we can see that we have our second instance that's running, and we have no steps yet because it is still running on my other screen. So that concludes the, whoops, we're still automating. That concludes today's consulting webinar. If you do have any questions, we do have resources available at answers.laserfiche.com, the Laserfiche Solutions Exchange, Laserfiche Support, and the CDI YouTube channel. You can also contact us at consulting, sales, or support at citiesdigital.com. Again, my name is Michael Mathis. I am the Solutions Director at CDI, and I will stay on the webinar for any questions that you may have. And again, please don't forget to complete the survey, which will be sent out after our webinar completes today. Right, I don't see any questions coming in. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Otherwise, thank you for joining today's webinar and enjoy the rest of your day.